Jon-Adrian. And Jon-Adrian Velazquez. So before we begin, I'm just going to ask you guys for another round of applause for these incredible actors. We are so proud to have you with us today. I know you tried to travel to be here with us, so we're incredibly grateful for you for making the time. I want to start by asking a little bit about the process of developing this movie with Greg Cuidar, the director. How did you discover that this was happening? How did you work with him to make it happen? And what was the process like for you as actors arriving to transform your experience into a sort of hybrid fiction, nonfiction film? Maybe you can start.
The process began with Brent Buell being contacted by Greg Cuidar and to their surprise that Brent was still in touch with us. So Brent got in touch with all of us and the magic happened from there, man. And transferring it from theater to film, it was like a skill that we already worked on when we was on the inside, when we was working with theater, building ourselves up. So we had a lot of prominent teachers that come in and teach us different techniques. But it was definitely a pleasure to have Coleman and all these people on a set that could give us sound advice in real time.
Yeah. What about you, gentlemen? How did you get involved?
Well, I'm a founding member of RTA, and I sit on the board, and we was having a gala for RTA, and they told me about Greg, but I didn't meet him, but I finally met him at the gala, and he was like, how would you like to be in the movie? And I'm looking at him like, are you kidding? Because I studied the arts for 9 years. And when I came home, it was difficult to just do what I would love doing. I had to pay bills, right? So I had to go to work. So I've been home now 20 years. And so when he asked me that, I was like, what? I finally get a chance to get back on the wood. Let's go. I'm for it, and especially to tell more people about RTA, telling RTA's story. That to me is a no-brainer.
JJ, how about you? Oh, yeah, sure.
I just want to say also, working with Greg, it was a beautiful process. He gave us so much creative freedom, right? And it helped us find a sense of truth of every scene. It was like sometimes if we went off script, he's like, hey, if you're going with it, go with it. And that made it more real for us.
For me, I was one of the newer members of RTA, right? And but I also was one of the individuals that was impacted by the power of RTA while I was inside. Because RTA wasn't just for the individuals who got on stage and went through the exercises and the rigorous times that they had to go through just to put on a show in a prison. RTA was a program that actually empowered everybody in the population that was able to experience the show the same way that you've been empowered by being able to experience our show, right? And so it was a beautiful experience, and it's something that, like, when you come from something as like serious as we did, and I'm talking about the incarceration, because I spent 24 years in prison for a crime I didn't commit, right? But it was individuals like Dino, like Divine, that were able to pull me up when I was too weak to pull myself up, right? And that came from the process that he's talking about. It was a process that we were taught to trust, right? And we're here now. So obviously, trusting the process works.
Yeah, absolutely. What drew you while you were, as men who were incarcerated, what drew you to RTA initially? What was it about doing theater work in that circumstance that made you feel that's something that could be for me, that I want to do, that I want to get involved with? Because not everyone is making that choice, right? Culture is different. So I'm just wondering, what drew you to it as individuals?
I started on my end because I'm gonna be real quick with it. The bottom line that everybody needs to realize is that there are a lot of individuals inside who made bad choices to go inside, but at some point throughout their incarceration, they wake up, right? And they realize this isn't worth it. And those individuals are looking to make better choices. They're just waiting for the opportunity, and programs like RTA give us that opportunity.
I guess maybe Dino, for you then, as a board member and someone who, after you had served, coming out and staying involved with the program, what obviously had a very profound impact on you. Maybe you could talk a little bit about what drew you to it initially and inspired you to continue serving.
Absolutely. When I first was approached with this idea, I was a founding member, one of the first ones that came into the room. And only thing I worshiped was the iron God. I used to work out all day long. That's all I did. And John walked on the weight court, he's like, Dino, say this line. I'm looking at him like, man, stop playing with me, let me get my money. And he said, no, seriously, we're thinking about starting a theater group in the school building. You come on down? I said, theater group. This is a maximum security facility. You think I'm gonna put on tights and run around? I said, man, come on. I'm waiting for the punchline. Like, come on. He's like, seriously? I'm like, I'll think about it. I went down there. That was the best thing I ever did. And in prison, you categorize yourself. You don't associate with everybody. You had the gangsters in one corner. You had the jazz musicians in another corner. You had the philosophers over there. You had the geeks over here. And, we just looking at each other like, hey, what are you doing down here? What's going on? But within 2 weeks after we started reading scripts, we started bonding, building bridges with each other, and we became a community. Right. That was my first experience of what a community is. Different people working together. You know what I'm saying? That blew my mind. That blew my mind. I forgot to add the point that I used to be an introvert. I was one of those guys that just sat in the corner and just looked at you. I didn't say much because I wasn't an effective communicator. I was dysfunctional. And every time I opened my mouth, it would come out wrong. And it would always get me into a situation. So I drew away from it. As you see what the arts did to me, man.
Coming down to getting involved in the RTA program, I got involved for not so much good reasons. I was attracted to the women on stage and all that. But once, it took a whole year. You got to take a whole year without getting any infractions, any trouble or anything, just to get in the program. And that was very difficult for me because I was in trouble all the time. So I completed the task, got into the program, didn't get in any trouble or anything, but once I got into the program, these same women became my sisters, my aunties. I even have a grandmama. They became families, and it was not about lusting after women. It was about being around people who treated me like a human being, and putting to task all of us together to get something done. And I had responsibilities, and my opinion mattered, and all of those kind of things that built the same bonds that he was talking about. That's how those bonds was built. Those bonds that last even to right now. The same people that you see with us in RTA are the same ones that was help supporting us when we was inside. Emotionally supporting. And not talking about financially supporting anything, but emotionally and spiritually and mentally supporting us. So Those kind of bonds is hard to break, and hard to violate, so I feel like we are connected like family. You know, so that's what got me into the program.
And before I turn it over to the audience, a final question for you. It seems that each of you, to make this movie, you have to sort of return to this place and go back and re-experience as actors now the experience of being in this program again on the inside. And I'm just wondering, I know that all three of you are now advocates on the outside and doing that advocacy work. So I'm wondering how you might see this film as a tool for that advocacy, and if that influenced your decision to participate in the movie.
Well, I guess it's on me. First of all, again, I was only a few months out after spending almost 24 years in prison, right? When this movie was about to be filmed in a decommissioned prison. So, I'm in the space now where I bring communities such as you into prisons now for a living, right? That's what pays the bills. And so the question always came to me as hard as you fought to get out of prisons, how is it that you so readily go inside of prison, right? And the truth is because I believe in human dignity, right? And I know that I left behind people that when I looked in the mirror, they looked just like me. They talk just like me. Some of them even think just like me. And so what I'm telling you is that the people that are on the other side are just like you. And that's what we really need to recognize. And that's what I have to say.
I work with youth in high schools, middle schools, jails, prisons, and it's an important thing to know that we're human. Even those that are not incarcerated are in a prison, a mental prison, where they have limitations, where they can only go but so far. We don't even realize we do that to ourselves. And sometimes what we need is we become numb, become desensitized. And we watch the news and we see nothing but bad things all the time. And after a while, it don't even bother us no more. But let me tell you something. It was so important for us to regain that human spirit again, learn how to care again, learn how to love again. And this movie takes you through that. You find yourself crying, you don't know why you're crying, but you're enjoying yourself, and you're crying. And we want nothing more than for you people all to feel the colors again. No more black and white. Feel the warm colors of the world and start loving each other. Because if we can learn how to do that in the most volatile environment, it's simple out here.
What this program done for me, it awakened a spirit that was in me a long time ago. See, when I was coming up, when I was younger, I wasn't into sports. I was into drawing and art and things like that, artsy things. But it wasn't the cool kids things, you know what I mean? So I kind of suppressed my own what I should have been doing, and try to run with everybody else. Getting into this program awoke that spirit, awoke that thing, that artsy thing. And for me, I think the message I would like people to know is that if we just pour a little bit more of humanity into our children at the time when they're supposed to be choosing what the thing is that they want to do. Because a lot of times those limitations stagnate them and they never get a chance to find the thing that they love, so they settle for anything. So if we could just use this movie to touch that thing inside somebody and awaken it and change their trajectory and put them on a path of doing something positive, productive, and constructive for the rest of the community. See, that's what art is supposed to do. Art is supposed to awaken that thing and find that thing in you that you can add to society. That's the part that we skip, we miss. When we don't investigate what it is that we can do through our imagination. When you suppress your own imagination, you cut a lot of resources off.
Montclair Film Education, everybody. Let's make movies. Do we have questions from the audience? I have one here in the front, yes. I'm going to give you my microphone.
Thank you so much. This has been wonderful. I've participated in a program called Leadership New Jersey, and each month we tackled a different topic. Criminal justice was one. And we went to Trenton State Prison, and you well know that you have to do something to get you 25 years to get in there. And the feeling of when the doors locked behind us was so emotional. And we were only there for dinner. And then you got to go home. And I just wondered, how did you get through day after day after day of being behind those gates?
Like my bro said, we become desensitized to a lot of things. Like when you walk in that prison, you probably notice the stench immediately. We've been in there so long, we don't even notice it no more. Desensitized.
For me, the beginning, I was desensitized from the streets, and I didn't care, and I couldn't feel, right? And there came a point where I desired to feel. I didn't feel human. And we everything we do, we start searching for that thing that helps us feel, that good feeling of love, that feels the hurt, the pain. So that's a process. So at first I was numb, but then it got to a point where I said, you know what? I want to feel every day of this pain. I want to feel the misery that's around me, because it'll make me never want to come back here again.
JJ?
It's rough for me, right? The truth is, and I don't share this with a lot of people, but the truth is that somehow we have defense mechanisms inside of us that protect us from things that we can't stand, right? That's like a scientific truth. And so I remember shortly after I blew trial, which means that there was a guilty verdict, like I was having nightmares, a lot of nightmares, right? And it was constant, and it was disturbing my peace and my sleep. It was disturbing my character, my personality. And somehow I lost the ability of recollecting those dreams. To this day, I'm still having problems trying to remember those dreams. So what I'm saying is that when we go through and we face severe trauma, we're never totally conscious of what we're capable of. What I'm telling you now is that I never thought I would survive the time that I was going to do. I was sentenced to life. I was released through executive clemency, which is a blessing. You can face whatever you go through, and you can come out on top if you believe in yourself. The reason why we have this problem of mass incarceration is because we have young children growing up in communities and nobody's believing in them, right? And so if you want to save this world, start believing in somebody. Make them believe that you believe in them, and they'll change, trying to make you proud. That's how we were saved. Brothers like them believed in me. People in society believed in my innocence. That's how I was saved. That's how I made it. That's where hope comes from. And that's what we need to do for each other.
First of all, I'm just so impressed and so moved and so touched by everything you guys did. And I want make that clear. I have a question with regards to the transition out of prison. And I know that often can be difficult getting jobs, getting housing, being welcomed by your family, and all of that. And obviously, you all are role models and doing wonderful things, integrating back in. But if you can talk about some of the opportunities, challenges, and how you inspire others.
Yeah, question about reintegration and after leaving prison and the process that you went through.
Well, for each of us, it was like a different process. Many of us had networks. Many of us had people that we could rely on. And much of that network consisted of formerly incarcerated brothers who was home waiting for us. Just like that's what was symbolic of the end of the movie, the embrace, the hug. Somebody's there waiting for you. Somebody's gonna guide you through this. That was symbolic of it. RTA and other programs like it have created networks of alums who are home, and we have our volunteers also. So fortunately for those of us who are involved in these programs and who have been in the process of working on ourselves for years before we even come home, you know, this is the population that we talk about. We talk about the individuals who chose to correct their own behavior. We didn't lay down and wait for the Department of Corrections to do it for us. We chose ourselves long before we came home and developed a network that we could rely on.
And one of the reasons why that network was created is because we realized that preparation is needed. You know what I mean? In other words, the ones that prepared themselves in prison not only took vocational trades, got degrees, and studied and educated themselves and prepared themselves to jump right into the workforce. You understand? But the ones that didn't prepare themselves, those are the ones that really need those networks, because they haven't begun to develop the skills necessary to be effective.
I'll tell you like this, I'm gonna give you a real life story. Dino's been out 20 years. I've been out 2.5 years. But I remember when Dino was coming back into the prison and pouring into us through his program, right? He was coming in through Council for Unity, and he used to come to us, and he used to inspire us just by showing up, right? And then I remember one time he whispered to me, he was like, yo, no matter what program or organization somebody talk about, your name is attached. He said, keep doing that, and when you come home, you're gonna be spinning circles around these people. And within the first year that I came home, I landed in the White House talking to Joe Biden about criminal legal reform. He was absolutely right.
My name is Danny, and one of my favorite parts of the movie was just seeing how well you guys all came together, especially when choosing what you guys would act out, and just some of the things that got brought up, and seeing all the old footage where they played all the different kinds of things you acted out, which are just so different from each other. And I think one of the best parts about the movie is seeing how the main story you guys acted out was all these different ideas. So how authentic was that to real life?
The question about the development of the stage show and everyone bringing these different plot ideas together to this sort of story, how realistic was that to your process?
I just want to say diversity is your strength. And when you follow the diversity that you have, it's going to be strong.
Yeah. Well, it was very accurate, because just in RTA, while we was in those classrooms and we was throwing those ideas together, this is where we get the point that everybody matters and everybody counts. And everybody's input is valuable. And everybody threw something on the table, and we put a little bit of everything that you put and stitched it all together. But that was it's indicative of how we respect one another. It's indicative of how, we uplift one another and never count you down. We always lift you up,
I was worried about how that was gonna land for the audience that you showed the plays to, but they loved the show, right? I mean, people saw those scenes come together and it was magic, right?
A lot of times, even during this, when we did Breaking the Mummy's Code the very first time, we broke away from the script. because we stayed within the parameters, and most of the words was there, but we broke away from the script and just had a ball in the audience and got wrapped up in it, and the connection between you and the audience. I had dudes that were sitting in those same seats while we was doing no plays 2 days later, coming to me talking about, yo, bro, you gotta tell somebody we're gonna do that shit. So it was the power of the connection, and a lot of tough dudes didn't want to look like they wasn't tough. They don't want to be sitting over there laughing so hard in prison.
And believe it or not, a lot of people wanted to be vulnerable like that.
Right.
And they started realizing, we became the conscience
Yeah.
of the prison. In other words, we talked about the things that men didn't want to talk about. We made fun of ourselves so that we would learn.
Right.
And guys would come to us and told me like, yo, man, how can I do that? I can do what you did. I said, you sure can? You gotta come on down,
We have time for a couple more questions. I'm gonna go here first and then here. Yes.
Hi, so I have a question, I guess more so for people that are on the outside, because I think it's kind of formulated for, transitioning back, like, people that serve time, which I think is important, but I do think like perspectives of people on the outside is relevant. So I wanted to ask, like, what would be your advice for people changing their perspective or trying to open their perspective to people transitioning from prison to understand what you guys went through, or maybe for someone that has someone in the family that's going through that, or even someone that has a friend. Because I feel like a lot of times we're, like you said, desensitized, where it's like, we're believing what we're told.
Right.
They went to jail for murder, so we have to believe that they're a bad person, and that's not always the case.
Right.
And I feel like a lot of people, like it fell on deaf ears. I feel like when people say, I went to jail and I served this amount of time for something I didn't do, and it's like it goes over everyone's head. What can we do on the outside to bridge that gap?
Did everyone get the question? Great.
I think what you can do is just remind them, because it's real simple. You have to learn how to forgive. We spend so much time in life holding on to things. How often do we really know what let go is? Because when you forgive somebody, you're not forgetting what they did. You're letting go of the emotions behind it. And sometimes people don't know how to let go of the emotions. And that's what's keeping them rigid into the thought process. We have to forgive ourselves sometimes in order to move forward. We all make bad choices. Did you forgive yourself? Some of us are still holding on to it. You gotta learn how to forgive.
And I think that if I got the question correct, you was wondering what you could do for people outside that's not incarcerated. How could they address this issue, address some of the things that we go through?
I don't look at it as an issue. I just want it to be like, I don't know, like more community. I feel like it's like
Right.
kind of like subsidiary. It's like, you
Yeah.
did this, and even when you come back, people come back and transition into society, it's almost seen like, they serve time. They're not
Right.
part of the community as a whole, and I think that that's a disservice that we do
It is.
as human beings.
And we're gonna have to bridge that gap. We're gonna have to, but see, what we gotta do is come together as communities. So it can't be y'all on that side and us on this side. It can't be that. That's not the definition of community. The debt has been paid already. Let that man back in society and teach that man well, teach that woman how to fit and how to make this thing work. Because a lot of times they don't want to, they want to be taught, but imagine a 50-year-old man coming to you to ask you, how do I use this phone? How do I, the pride that he has to, buckle down just to come ask the question, especially after spending X amount of years in maximum security prisons, and you have to build yourself a certain way. When you step outside your cell, you got to be fit. Mentally, physically, spiritually, everything, because this is a danger zone. So you prepare for that every day, and then you come home. You want to add on to society, but do society really want to let you? And this is the struggle that a lot of people have. So to bridge that gap, we're going to all have to come together.
Also, consistency. you have to explain to them when they come home, they have to be consistent. You know, just like when a child makes a mistake, you're like, yo, I'm sorry. The words doesn't fix the problem. When I first came home, and I went back to the same neighborhood, you think everybody embraced me? They was like, oh, they go that Johnson boy again. Oh, he's gonna hurt somebody, he going right back. Oh yeah, they was just watching me. I get in the elevator, they come out, because they remember me from when I was a little kid and the things I did, right? But then they see me walking around, going back and forth to work with a suit on. You know, first year go by, they looking at me like. Then they start saying, good morning, Mr. Johnson. I'm like, good morning, how are you? How's everything? And then they would see me on the news talking to youth. You know what I'm saying? That's out there hurting people and stuff like that. Then before you knew it took about 3-4 years, at least, before people would say, that's Mr. Johnson. He's a good upstairs to this community. Yeah, but I'm gonna tell you something. It's like,
Take 4 years.
it's just like, it shouldn't. Because just like when you go in a store and they think you're gonna shoplift, what happens? Yo, why you following me? The community has to learn how to embrace people and just watch for the consistency.
JJ, you and I were talking about advocacy and the things that you can do as a person to advocate in your own community with other people and represent the language and the acceptance and demonstrate and model that behavior. Maybe you can talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, I'm definitely gonna include that with a little bit of what you were looking for as well. What I would say to the last question is the tagline would be to seek human dignity through proximity.
Right.
Which means that the closer we get to the people, right? Because it's fear. Our problem is fear. And it's being perpetuated by media, right? And so when we get close to each other and we spend time with each other, we start to realize, you ain't that different from me. I could actually care. And in fact, as I'm listening to you, I care about what you're saying. I care about who you are.
Right.
I realize you and I see you. That's the first step, right? To see the person for who they are. And so in terms of advocacy, again, go back into what I was telling you. If you see somebody who seems like they need some help, offer it. Lean in. Take the time to believe in somebody. Invest in somebody with your heart. We ain't asking you to come out of your pocket. Invest in somebody with your time.
And also, there's also groups and other people in other communities, possibly in your community, that's doing this work. Because this message is growing now. It's not just us anymore. The message is growing.
So what I would tell you, and this, you might look at me crazy for saying this, but what I can tell you that you can start to do is find 5 friends and tell them to buy tickets to watch this movie.
Yeah.
I'm dead ass serious. That's how you start. Because they need to see what you see. And hopefully they can see or hear us at some point when we pop up on a theater on the sneak, because we're gonna be doing that.
Yeah.
Or when we come to different communities. It's about having these conversations. And just for staying behind and listening to our conversation, we're grateful for all of you. Thank you.
Thank you.
So, speaking of that, Sing Sing will be opening at the Claridge this summer for a full theatrical run, multiple shows a day for weeks. So I hope that you guys can spread the word in the community to have people come check this movie out, because I think it's a really important conversation to be having. And I'm so grateful to you, Divine, to you, Dino, and to you, JJ, for being here to share your stories with us and bring this beautiful film to our community. Thank you so much. We're grateful to
Thank
have
you, Montclair. Thank you, Montclair. Thanks for having me.